Kamala Harris is currently ahead in most polls across the swing states, raising the question, who is likely to win the upcoming presidential race? We'll delve into the latest polling and betting market figures, starting with the states that are expected to be won by former President Trump. These include Maine's 2nd District, West Virginia, Ohio, South Carolina, Florida, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Iowa, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, and finally, Alaska. Next, we'll outline the states projected to be secured by Vice President Harris. These are Maine's 1st District, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Illinois, Colorado, New Mexico, Washington, Oregon, California, and lastly, Hawaii. Finally, let's examine the critical battleground states that are poised to determine the outcome of this election. Welcome back to Election Atlas. We're glad you're here as we keep exploring the key battlegrounds in this election. Every state matters, and the changes we're seeing are more interesting than ever. In Arizona, Vice President Harris currently holds a lead of 3 to 4 points. This state has been increasingly leaning towards the Democratic Party in recent elections, having shifted its allegiance in 2020 for the first time since 1996. This trend highlights the dynamic and changing political landscape in Arizona, reflecting a broader shift in voter preferences and demographic changes, underscoring the state's pivotal role in this election cycle. In Nevada, the former president, Donald Trump, appears to have a marginal lead, hovering between 2 and 3 points ahead. Nevada has historically oscillated between political parties in recent presidential elections, with a slight inclination towards the Democrats in the last 4 contests. Shifting our focus to the Rust Belt, specifically Wisconsin, Vice President Harris is currently leading by a slight margin of 1 to 2 points. Wisconsin has consistently been a pivotal state in elections, having unexpectedly supported Trump in 2016, only to revert to the Democrats in the 2020 election. In Michigan, Vice President Harris enjoys a more substantial lead, with polls indicating she is ahead by 2 to 6 points. Michigan, like Wisconsin, was previously a stronghold for the Democrats that Trump managed to win in 2016, though it returned to the Democratic fold in the subsequent election. Turning to Pennsylvania, the state currently shows a slight preference for Trump, who leads by 1 point according to the most recent polls. Pennsylvania's electoral significance has been well documented, with a history of Democratic victories from 1992 until 2012, a shift towards Trump in 2016, and a return to Democratic leadership under Biden in 2020. Looking further north in Minnesota, Harris is currently ahead by a robust 5 points. While Minnesota is often discussed as a potential battleground, it has steadfastly supported Democratic presidential candidates since 1976. Before we go any further, have you hit that subscribe button yet, or are you still in the 99% who haven't? We're putting in the work to bring you the latest, sharpest predictions. Show your support by subscribing now and get all the top political insights sent straight to your feed. Don't miss out. Subscribe today. In New Hampshire, an earlier poll places Harris ahead by 6 points. This state's electoral history strongly leans Democratic, with Democratic candidates winning in 7 out of the last 8 presidential elections, suggesting a continuation of this trend. Virginia poses an intriguing scenario in the current electoral landscape. Earlier surveys indicated a lead for Trump, but Virginia's shift towards the Democratic Party in recent presidential elections suggests a possible trend toward blue, after decades of consistent Republican support. Further south in North Carolina, current data places Harris slightly ahead by 2 to 3 points. Historically a Republican stronghold, the state has seen more competitive elections recently, notably flipping to Democrat. With Obama's narrow victory in 2008, only to revert back to Republican preferences in subsequent elections of 2012, 2016, and 2020. In the state of Georgia, Trump currently enjoys a lead ranging from 3 to 6 points. The 2020 elections marked a significant departure from the norm for Georgia, which chose a Democrat for president for the first time since 1992, causing a surprise shift in the state's political alignment. Considering the polling data alongside the trends observed in recent voting behavior, our analysis currently anticipates a victory for Vice President Harris based on her expected marginal wins in critical battleground states. Nonetheless, the races in several states are closely contested, underscoring the highly competitive nature of this election. It could still swing in either direction. While polling provides crucial insights, it is but one of several tools utilized to forecast the outcomes of elections. As we examine the current betting odds in these pivotal states, they offer a nuanced view that sometimes eludes traditional polling methods. Arizona sees Trump with a slight advantage at 51% compared to Harris's 49%. In Nevada, Trump's lead is more pronounced at 54% to Harris's 46%. Minnesota strongly supports Harris, who leads with 94% against Trump's 6%. Wisconsin also shows a preference for Harris at 58% to 42%. Michigan demonstrates a robust lead for Harris at 64% to 36%. Pennsylvania, too, shows a preference for Harris at 55% to 45%. New Hampshire is decisively in Harris's camp at 84% to 16%. Virginia, significantly, shows Harris with a large lead at 86% to 14%. Conversely, North Carolina favors Trump at 59% to 41%. Georgia, maintaining its trend, favors Trump at 58% to 42%. These disparities between the betting odds and poll results emphasize the intricate dynamics at play in predicting electoral outcomes. This nuanced perspective underscores the uncertainties and varied regional support for each candidate, making the race highly unpredictable and intensely competitive. Let's integrate the data from the betting markets into our projection of the Electoral College outcomes. In Arizona, the current data showing Trump's slight advantage of 51% to 49% points to him, potentially securing Arizona's 11 electoral votes in this election cycle. Over in Nevada, Trump's more robust lead of 54% to 46% implies that he is poised to claim Nevada's 6 electoral votes. In contrast, Minnesota clearly leans towards Harris, with her commanding lead of 94% to 6%, nearly assuring her of Minnesota's 10 electoral votes. Wisconsin appears to tilt towards Harris as well, with her leading at 58% to 42%. Similarly, Michigan is leaning in Harris's favor with a margin of 64% to 36%. Pennsylvania, a key state in the elections, also shows a preference for Harris, who leads there by 55% to 45%. New Hampshire shows a strong inclination towards Harris with an 84% to 16% split, almost certainly securing her 4 electoral votes. Virginia, showing substantial support for Harris at 86% to 14%, will contribute its 13 electoral votes to her total. The competition is closer in North Carolina, where Trump's lead of 59% to 41% suggests he will likely gain its 15 electoral votes. Lastly, the state of Georgia shows a preference for Trump at 58% to 42%, indicating he will likely take its 16 electoral votes. The current analysis of betting odds illustrates a geographic split in electoral preferences, with Harris showing strength in the upper Midwest and Mid-Atlantic regions and Trump holding strong positions in the South and certain areas of the Southwest. It's important to note, however, that the final decision rests in the hands of the electorate who will cast their votes on Election Day, adding an element of unpredictability to the outcomes projected from current betting trends. Let's take a broader look at how this election has unfolded. Throughout this campaign, the betting markets have told a fascinating story. When President Biden made the surprising decision to withdraw, former President Trump initially saw a substantial lead over Vice President Harris. This lead was a direct result of the suddenness of Biden's exit and the doubts about Harris's readiness to assume the role of the Democratic nominee. Yet, as Harris gained confidence and outlined her plans for the nation, there was a significant turnaround. She not only bridged the gap, but actually surpassed Trump in the betting odds, illustrating her growing popularity among the electorate and her effectiveness as a contender. As Election Day draws near, the contest has become incredibly close. Current odds place Trump at 47% and Harris at 51%, a narrow margin of only 4 points. This small difference highlights the intense competitiveness of this election. With the candidates in a dead heat, it is evident that every single vote will be crucial. Factors like voter turnout in crucial swing states, Last-minute changes in voter sentiment or unexpected developments could all be decisive in the final outcome. In such a closely contested election, the responsibility to determine the next president ultimately rests with the voters of America. Thank you for tuning in, and if you found this analysis helpful, please consider subscribing to our channel.